all the research that didn't even fit into all the books because it's unlimited, right? My name is Suresvara, and tonight we're going to be doing lesson 1 of what I call the Founder Acharya seminar series. Can we get the seminar up? It's actually a 10-lesson journey, and competing seminars. That's okay. Does everybody speak English here? I don't speak Gujarati or I don't speak Hindi, so you have to suffer with American English. I'm sorry I'm from America, it happens. Okay.
Form of English. The worst form of English.
Yeah, right, you're right. Okay, so I'm going to be sitting, I have a script, and then I'm going to be calling on all of you. Can everybody see the screen? Can you see the words? It's a little washed out. Because I'm going to be talking a lot, I like people to read what's on the slides. So when I move a slide, I'll just point to somebody, or sometimes it's even better if there's a designated reader, like if you want to be the reader. Okay, but you have to have a mic too. You got to, okay, there you go. Okay, so the first lesson is called the Spiritual Masters. Notice the plural there. Uh-oh. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay. All right. So, the Spiritual Masters. I have to be able to move the keys here. Ooh. There we go. So, thank you for the opportunity to share with you a drop of Srila Prabhupada's limitless glories. I call this Founder Acharya Essentials. And our first lesson is called the Spiritual Masters. And who relationship with the Founder Acharya? Keep that in mind. Okay, so here we are. Where is Srila Prabhupada? Does anybody know? Yes, good guess. Look at the green leafy background. Makeshift Vyasasana. Okay. The year is 1972. I was there. I was sitting right at Prabhupada's feet. In New Vrindavan, USA, it is Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day. As the sun climbs to the meridian, the thick mist shrouding the West Virginia foothills gives way to a spotless blue. Inside a hilltop pavilion, there it is, hundreds of devotees and guests, politicians, journalists, and academics among them, have gathered to observe the 76th anniversary of Prabhupada's birth. 1972. So how old was ISKCON in 1972? 6 years. The movement was the oldest devotee was only a 6-year devotee, 1972. It is to the guests especially that Prabhupada directs his address. Now if you go to YouTube today and you type in New Vrindavan Vyasa Puja address, you can hear the whole thing. You can see Prabhupada give this address. You can hear him speaking, you can hear the cows mooing and the flies buzzing and the bees humming and the kids crying and everything else. And Prabhupada is speaking. There's about 1,000 people at this festival. And 900 of them were devotees, but the other 100 were politicians, journalists, and academics, because they wanted to know, what is this Hare Krishna? We've been seeing you guys on the street corners. You look different, you smell different, you sound different, you eat different, and you're not going away like all these other groups. They come and go. You're sticking. Who's responsible for all this? So when Prabhupada heard that, he said, well, invite them to New Vrindavan. I'm coming to New Vrindavan. We'll have Bhagavad Dharma discourses, and we'll have a whole session on Janmashtami Vyasa Puja, and they can learn who's responsible for this. Him. He brought it all. He transplanted a whole culture. right, from India. And here is what he said. Okay, Mataji, why don't you read this?
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, those who are my students, they know what is the ceremony. Those who are visitors, for their information, I may inform you something about this
Ceremony.
Otherwise, it may be misunderstood. An outsider may see it that way. Why a person is being worshipped like God? There may be some doubt.
Doubt, indeed. The 1960s and 70s have seen a spike in the number of opportunistic gurus coming to the West, streamlining Vedic revelation to suit modern tastes and reaping the profits. To establish trust, Prabhupada begins to demystify the guru by connecting him to other gurus in parampara. Okay, read that.
On the top of the mango tree, there is a very ripened fruit, and that fruit has to be tasted. So if I drop the fruit from up, it will be lost. Therefore, it is handed over after one, after. Then it comes down. So all Vedic process of knowledge is taken from the authority, and it comes down through disciplic succession.
Well aware of modern aversion to authority, Prabhupada then compares the guru to that venerable American pedestrian, the mailman.
Just like a post PN comes and delivers you, say $100, so he is not delivering that $100. Your friend has sent you $100 and his business is to hand over that $100 as it is, without any change, without taking $1 from it, no or adding. No addition, no subtraction. His honesty, his perfection is that he delivers you that $100 which is sent by your friend. He may be imperfect in so many other ways, but when he does his business perfectly, he's perfect. Similarly, we receive perfect knowledge from Krishna through the agency of spiritual master.
Now the next section I call Guru is one, Gurus are different. The Guru as God's mailman, down to earth yet out of this world. In this sense, all genuine gurus are one. Those Vyasa Puja guests who later read Prabhupada's teachings will learn how all genuine gurus also differ.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 1.1.
Yeah, you don't need to read the references. Just, yeah. So you see, that's Kaviraj Goswami. In the book's introduction, Srila Prabhupada notes,
He, Kaviraj Goswami, uses the plural here to indicate the disciplic succession. He offers obeisances not to his spiritual master alone, but to the whole parampara, the chain of disciplic succession beginning with Lord Krishna himself.
and who was Kaviraj Goswami's Diksha Guru? Does anybody know? Yes, very good. You can find that out right in this first chapter. This whole first lesson is basically based on the first chapter of CC. Although at the end of CC, at the end of every chapter of CC, Kaviraj Goswami is offering his respects to his Shiksha Gurus, Rupa Raghunath, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. But his Diksha Guru is none other than Lord Nityananda. But even though he's of the category of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityananda, he's not just offering his obeisances to Lord Nityananda, but to all the spiritual masters. Okay, here we go. Later, in the book's first chapter, text 35, Kaviraj Goswami offers his respects to, quote, my initiating spiritual master and all my instructing spiritual masters. Prabhupada comments.
A devotee must have only one initiating spiritual master because in the scriptures, acceptance of more than one is always forbidden. Sorry. There is no limit, however, to the number of instructing spiritual masters one may accept. Generally, a spiritual master who constantly instructs a disciple in spiritual science becomes his initiating spiritual master later on.
Remember that sentence. Generally, a spiritual master who constantly instructs a disciple in spiritual science becomes his initiating spiritual master later on. Do we do that in ISKCON? Not generally, but we'll revisit that point later. So that last sentence indicates the natural, normal guru-disciple relationship, sustainable over time, that whoever gives you the most shiksha becomes your diksha. That's the way it was in village India for thousands of years. Although Prabhupada was uniquely empowered to spread Krishna consciousness worldwide within a few years, it is worth noting that he entrusted the thousands of disciples he was initiating to the care of his local leaders and senior devotees, his budding instructing gurus. Now, decades on, to glimpse how his movement's guru-disciple culture can become, again, more local and sustainable, the way Prabhupada himself describes it, let's continue to examine his presentation of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita's foundational first chapter, The Spiritual Masters. So this next section is more about initiating. We're going to explore this, initiating and instructing gurus, the relationship. In the years since Prabhupada's passing, the spotlight on the initiating spiritual master may have led members of his movement to believe that to initiate disciples requires more qualification than to instruct them. We may think, because generally the spotlight is on initiating gurus. All right, we may think that. And there's Prabhupada. Prabhupada knew how to use his hands. See how he's making a point. He had these mudras. Sometimes you see him like this, or like the Jnana mudra, you know. He's trying to, don't you see? Okay. In his comments to text 34, let me read that previous sentence again. In the years since Prabhupada's passing, the spotlight on the initiating spiritual master may have led members of his movement to believe that to initiate disciples requires more qualification than to instruct them. In his comments to text 34, Prabhupada disagrees.
The initiating and instructing spiritual masters are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna, although they have different dealings.
In his comments to text 47, Prabhupada raises the point to a warning.
There is no difference between the shelter-giving Supreme Lord and the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. If one foolishly discriminates between them, he commits an offense in the discharge of devotional service. If
we think the initiating guru and the instructing, they're on, it's just categorically, it's a higher or a lower position, that's offensive. Equal and identical manifestations of Krishna. Of course, the potential to have many instructing gurus does not cancel the requirement to accept initiation from a singular guru. Just because I can have a lot of instructing gurus doesn't mean that I should avoid initiation. That's Ritvikism, right? Okay, so in his introduction to the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada writes, the connection with the spiritual master is called initiation. From the date of initiation by the spiritual master, the connection between Krishna and a person cultivating Krishna consciousness is established. Without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, the actual connection with Krishna consciousness is never performed. So we have to go through that rite of passage where we actually commit in front of the sacred fire and the devotees and the deities and the guru. We commit to the path. It's a samskar. It's meant to make us more serious. So the next section is called The Power of Commitment. Heavy with spiritual knowledge, all genuine gurus are teachers. At the same time, their impact on our lives varies according to the depth of their commitment to us. Again, from his commentary to text 34, Prabhupada says,
Guru is plural in number because anyone who gives spiritual instruction based on the revealed scriptures is accepted as a spiritual master. Although others give help in showing the way to beginners, the guru who first initiates one with the Mahamantra is to be known as the initiator. And the saints who give instructions for progressive advancement and Krishna consciousness are called instructing spiritual masters.
So, notice the progression of what Prabhupada just said. You can see it on the board. Notice the progressive commitment from introducing, what do we call introducer gurus? Who was Prabhupada's introducer guru? Who introduced him to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta?
His friend?
Narendranath Mulak, right? They were babies. They were in their mother's prams together when they were babies. And then later on they grew up, and Narendra, Prabhupada said, he dragged me. I didn't want to go to meet Bhaktisiddhanta, but he dragged me to number 1 Alta Danga rooftop. And that's where I met my Guru Maharaj. And he didn't join the Gaudiya Math, but he was the guru. He was the Vardha Pradarshika guru, or Pata Pradarshika guru for Prabhupada. So that's the introducer guru. And then eventually we commit to take initiation from a Diksha Guru. And then it says, and the saints who give instructions for progressive advancement in Krishna consciousness are called instructing spiritual masters. Whoever instructs us the most is naturally more influential in our lives. Just like I took initiation from Srila Prabhupada on July 17th, 1971. But over the years, and then, of course, Prabhupada left our vision in 77, but over the years, I've developed very close Shiksha relationships with a few people, like Satsarup Maharaj, and like Borijan Prabhu, and so many I can think of, that I really depend on. To come closer to Prabhupada, we need. Just because I'm initiated by Prabhupada doesn't mean it's just me and Prabhupada. I need so many gurus to help me come closer to Prabhupada. Okay, so, whoever instructs us the most is naturally more influential in our lives. As we noted above, quote, generally a spiritual master who constantly instructs a disciple in spiritual science becomes his initiating spiritual master later on, close quote. Even when the guru doesn't say a word, the guru is always teaching, especially by example, the most powerful teacher. Example is better than precept, and actions speak louder than words. Once my late godbrother Vishnujan Swami, he was in Mayapur, and he told Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I would like to take one of those little skiffs, those little boats, and go down the Ganga and put into the hamlets and enliven the villagers by chanting Harinam and distributing prasad. But I don't speak the language. I don't speak Bangla. I don't speak Bengali. So Prabhupada just laughed. He said, they don't care what you say. They don't care what you say. They just want to see how you behave. Achar is more important than prachar. Example is better than precept. Talk is cheap, right? It's how do we behave? Okay, here we go. There's Prabhupada. There's another shot of the same scene. So I titled this section, So You, Every One of You, Become Gurus. That's what he was telling. For the devotees listening to Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja address, their appreciation of his unique position is increasing. For many of us, that was the first time we saw Prabhupada up close, and sitting at his feet. Yeah. Seated on a throne-like crimson dais, Prabhupada is a guru of gurus. Quote, a master at whose feet all masters sit. Although their commitment to him is as green as their summer surroundings, you have this green means new. It's not ripe, right? As green as their summer surroundings. His commitment to them is timeless, and his ongoing request difficult for most of them to imagine. What is he telling us? Become guru. Because we thought it meant become like him. You can't imitate a founder acharya, but in our own way, to our own capacity, he wanted us to be gurus. In the Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 7, text 128, Lord Chaitanya famously tells the Brahmana Kurma, Yare Dako, Tare Kaha, Krishna Upadesh, Amara Gyai Guru Hanya, Tare Desh. Quote, this is how Prabhupada translated that. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna, as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Like Prabhupada, he was a Jagat Guru, so he could liberate anybody in the world. But at least according to your capacity, liberate. Well, first thing is free yourself, by following instructions. Be a guru for your family. Be a guru for your block, your neighborhood, Burlington, the whole GTA, whatever your capacity. Everybody's got different capacities, right? Different gurus have different capacities. So, as recorded in the Bhaktivedanta Vedabase, in hundreds of lectures, morning walks, room conversations, letters, and public and private events, Prabhupada cited the above verse, the Aridako verse, as a reminder of the Lord's request, become guru. From the beginning through the middle to the end of Prabhupada's global ministry, these reminders to his followers were relentless. He was always saying this. Even in the beginning when people didn't even know what he was talking about, because he had a thick Bengali accent, or what Swamiji was saying it sounded foreign to them. He was begging everybody it was a very touching tape where Prabhupada, this is 1966, he's in New York City. He's not even in 26 Second Avenue yet. He's in the Bowery loft. And he's saying, and Prabhupada's, he's just going into like a real rapture of glorifying Krishna. And then he says, Krishna? You know Krishna? And he's looking at these Westerners who never heard of Krishna, right? And then you hear Prabhupada say, oh, like, he's getting reminded by the Lord that he's talking to people and who hardly knows what he's talking about. But still he's begging them to try to understand what he's saying so that they can share what he's saying with others. It's like, you got to be a guru too. Because he was always saying, I'm an old man, I don't know how long I have to live. You've got to understand this so the world can be saved. Whew. All right. Okay, so, Mataji.
For the devotees listening to Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja address, their appreciation their appreciation of his unique position is increasing. Seated on a throne-like crimson dais, Prabhupada is Guru of gurus, a master at whose feet all masters sit.
Yeah, I just read this. I should have let you read it. Read it again.
Although their commitment to him is as green as their summer surroundings, his commitment to them is timeless, and his ongoing request, difficult for most of them to imagine, become Guru.
Okay, now we go. All right. Let's see.
I want that all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit the title of Bhakti Vedanta so that the family transcendental diploma will continue through the generations. Those possessing the title of Bhakti Vedanta will be allowed to initiate disciples. Maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the number of the generations. That is my program.
What an expansive view, the Parampara. You know what triggered Prabhupada saying this? He wrote this letter to Hansaduta in 69. In the fall of 68, 2 books were finally published. There were no books in the 60s, and when he started the movement. And then finally, Collier Macmillan published a heavily abridged edition of the Bhagavad Gita. And then Dinapan, a Japanese printer, printed Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So there's 2 books printed. So Prabhupada, just 2 books. and Prabhupada is waxing ecstatic. And he's saying, okay, we got books now. So I want you to become learned in the books, most of which hadn't even been published yet. And then I want you to all initiate. Maybe by 1975, what does he say? All will be allowed to initiate. He didn't say he'd be gone. He just said maybe you'll be so advanced you can initiate. That is my program. He wants everybody to study the books and become, according to their capacity, gurus. Men, women, Americans, Indians, South Americans, Europe, it doesn't matter. Just become acquainted with the science of Krishna and pass it on. All right, so here's another quote. That's from a letter. This is from a room conversation.
So every one of you can become guru. You may say that I'm not interested to become a guru, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that if you're not interested, that is not very good. You should be interested. You must be guru. That is the success of your life.
Again, when you hear the word guru, don't think Prabhupada, don't think founder Acharya, just think teacher. You're a student now, and the student now is supposed to be the next teacher. So, Prabhupada said this so much. This is in Tehran, Iran, when the Shah was still in, when you could preach, openly. Now it's, militantly Muslim since 79, so devotees are there in Iran, but it's underground. Okay, so now this section is called Strictly Follow. Prabhupada anticipated that some of his leading disciples, out of immaturity, might try to imitate his unique position as Jagat Guru, a universal teacher. At the same time, his relentless reminders to become genuine gurus indicate a greater concern that in their supreme esteem for their founder Acharya, his followers would not mature to become gurus in their own right and shelter others in Lord Chaitanya's mission. How then would Krishna's mercy reach every town and village, as the Vedic scriptures had foretold? And how would every sincere aspirant receive the personal care and guidance they would need to make the challenging journey back home, back to Godhead? So unless everybody takes up the order to be a kind of guru, shiksha or diksha, or vartma pradarshaka, then you're not going to have a lot of gurus. In ISKCON today, we've only got 100 diksha gurus, and the spotlight is still on them. Not enough on the shiksha guru. But still, everybody's supposed to grow up and become a teacher, and then it'll go to every town and village, because there'll be enough people to service all the towns and villages all over the world. Not just in the GTA, but in Novosibirsk, Siberia, or in some little town in Chile, or in Africa, everywhere. Okay, So in his writings, therefore, Prabhupada made it clear that the most important qualification to become a guru was to, quote, strictly follow the instructions of Guru and Krishna. And the next thing you're going to see is a letter that Prabhupada wrote to a Canadian devotee in 1968. His name was Janos Dambergs. He was a student at Montreal, University of Montreal. Is that, what's the
McGill.
McGill. Yeah, he was a student at McGill. And he wrote a question about how can you become a guru? So Prabhupada answered this, Mataji.
A person who is liberated Acharya and Guru cannot commit any mistake. But there are persons who are less qualified or not liberated, but still can act as Guru and Acharya by strictly following the disciplic succession.
In his humility, even Prabhupada, who is so qualified on the highest levels of Krishna Prem, Mahabhagavat, Shaktiveshavatar, founder Acharya, he would say things to us like, I may not be perfect, but because I'm following the perfect, therefore I'm perfect. That Prabhupada said that. So he's telling it to us. And why did he say that? Not only because he's humble, because he's trying to encourage us. Look, okay, you were born Mlecha Yavana, whatever, but just strictly follow now, and you can become purified. Kiratahu nandra pulinda pulkasha. You know that verse? Bhagavatam 2.4.18. Kiratas, hundras, pulindas, this is all these different kinds of human beings, different species of humans who are outside the Vedic fold. They can become purified. Shukadeva Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj. By following the pure devotees of the Lord, due to his, God's supreme power, he can purify us through his pure devotees. Whew, very powerful verse. And for those who only accept what Prabhupada wrote in his books, because people might say, oh, that's just a letter, Prabhu. He just said that to somebody in a letter. Maybe it was just for him. It wasn't for everybody. But, I mean, that is a general statement, too. But I only believe what's in the books. Okay, so here's something from the books. That's just what this says. Listen to this. Let's see. Yeah. There you go. Mataji.
Although a follower may not be a liberated person, if he follows the supreme liberated personality of Godhead, his actions are naturally liberated from the contamination of the material nature. Lord Chaitanya therefore says, by my order you may become a spiritual master. One can immediately become a spiritual master by having full faith in the transcendental words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by following his instructions.
Following. Yeah, we can't just say, well, I'm a disciple of so and so, right? No, but am I following? What makes a disciple is a follower. Disciple, when you go down to the Latin root of disciple, it means follower. Somebody who actually follows. Okay. Here we go. There's Prabhupada, another camera shot of Prabhupada on the Vyasasana. And let's see. Oh. All right. Oh, I think I jumped the gun there. All right, let's go back. Okay. So then I kind of conclude here. We're getting close to the end. How are we doing on time? 5, 6. Oh, we're in good shape. Okay. So one need not be a Superman. You don't have to be a Superman or a Superwoman to be a regular spiritual master. Notice that, regular spiritual master. Not a super guru, but a regular guru. One need not be a Superman or a Superwoman to be a regular spiritual master. Liberated or non-liberated, a guru is genuine if he or she strictly follows the orders of Guru and Krishna. Now, by Prabhupada's reckoning, his movement today likely has more local gurus than its own members recognize. We might think, oh, I could never be a guru, Prabhu, but by Prabhupada's definition of a guru, there's probably many gurus in this room. I know there are. I've already met them. So, those unrecognized gurus, simply need to be formally approached for guidance and formally encouraged to give it. It shouldn't be hard to be a guru. It's just like, again, like a student becoming a teacher or a child becoming a parent. It's natural. As Prabhupada told his disciples in Hawaii, quote, this is quite a quote, "We require many millions of gurus." Woo! Wow. Because there's over 8 billion people on this planet. So that means we need millions of gurus. That was from a talk he gave in 21st of May, 76. All right, here we go. This is that picture. Pens. Now, don't forget, the New York Times was there, and the local news was there, the TV news, WWVA Wheeling, West Virginia, KDKA Pittsburgh. They were there. Mother Earth News was there. Pens scribbling, cameras rolling. His American guests listen to Prabhupada close his Vyasa Puja address as he looks into their eyes. Prabhupada is concerned that they've correctly heard and understood his message. So here's how Prabhupada signed off.
So this is the position of a spiritual master. Don't misunderstand that. This person is sitting very comfortably and taking all honors and contribution. It is needed just to teach them how to respect the representative of God. This is the sum and substance of Vyas Puja. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for caring enough to come and save us. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Okay, so Prabhus, before we hear your questions and comments, let's review the main learning outcomes for this lesson. So here's a little review of the lesson. And here we go. I'm going to take a swig. Hang on. A swig? Is that understandable? When you take a swig, you say that in Canada? All right. Take a drink. All right. Okay. Here's the learning outcomes. By now, we should be able to, Kamadaji.
By now, we should be able to explain how Srila Prabhupada demystified the Guru. Explain how Gurus are one and different from each other. Explain why we may misunderstand an initiating spiritual master to be superior to an instructing spiritual master. Explain why Srila Prabhupada wanted all his followers to become gurus. Explain how even non-liberated devotees can act as guru. Explain the real meaning of Vyas Puja that Srila Prabhupada gave at the end of the narrative.
Okay, so when you offer your question, we're going to take questions and comments now. So when you raise your hand and I call on you, try to relate your questions and comments to these learning outcomes. Because there's a tendency, when people raise their hand, they want to talk about anything and everything in the universe. But just relate it to the learning outcomes in this lesson. And then we'll actually, get somewhere. We'll actually go deeper into the points. Because I say and write things, I deliberately try to provoke you. I try to make you think, huh? Is that right? Is that true? Why did he say that? But so I welcome that, so we can go deeper into it. Okay, Mataji, Wait a minute, you've been talking a lot.
In regards to second and third point in the slide, um, the difference and similarity between instructing spiritual master and spiritual master, Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru.
Uh-huh.
I was just wondering that if they're same, then why does Diksha Guru only gets the sin? Prabhupada talks about it that, spiritual master takes on the sins of the disciple. And if they both are same, then, and somewhere Diksha Guru is taking something extra, is taking my sin, which no other relationship in the world is doing. So how are they same in that regard?
Okay, well, you might remember I said something in that regard, that whoever instructs us the most, naturally we tend to develop more of a relationship with that person. So has anybody ever heard Bhanu Swami, who's also Canadian? Japanese Canadian, but he's been in India forever, right? In Chennai. So he gives nice seminars on Shiksha and Diksha. I don't know if you've ever heard them. And based mainly on Prabhupada's Vani, but also on other Shastras too. And you can make a good case just from Prabhupada's Vani that the main thing is Shiksha, not Diksha. Actually, right in Gita, can anybody think of a verse where it talks about Shiksha and Diksha in the same, this is a little esoteric, but who knows Gita 4:34, famous verse. Just try to learn the truth by... Yes. Tadvihi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshanaha. What does Krishna tell Arjuna? Just try to learn the truth. He doesn't say by trying to talk to me. He says, by approaching a spiritual master, you got to go through my pure devotee. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him or her. The self-realized souls, plural, can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Krishna goes from singular to plural. And the word, if you look at the word for word, upadekshanti te jnanam. You know how Prabhupada translates? You can even look it up on your phone. Upadekshanti te jnanam. He translates, because in the translation of the verse he says, the self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you. And then in the word for word, upadekshanti, he renders the Sanskrit for that is, they will initiate. So the essence of initiation is shiksha. I mean, there's a big fanfare, and there's, and as I said, it's a samskar. It's a very dramatic event. I'll never forget the day I was initiated because that made a big impression on me. But the essence of the initiation is the transference in other words, if I haven't been reading Prabhupada's books and chanting, and it says, to chant 16 rounds, and it says to follow these principles, then it's just a ceremony. It's like Prabhupada would say, don't make the guru a show bottle. Don't make the whole thing a farce. So we're going to get into a little deeper on the next lesson. It's called the Founder Acharya Principle. But you'll see how we're coming in a Shiksha line. We're coming in a line not of Diksha Gurus. We're coming in a line of prominent preceptors. That's the next lesson. And as far as the karma goes, taking the karma. Well, anybody who's ever been a parent knows that when your child, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's different because most of you folks are coming from an Indian background, but well, maybe you are experiencing it. It becomes even in India, things are getting more modern, and So it's, when kids often, when children reach the age of adolescence, very often there's some rebellion. I don't know if there is in your house, but but that's very common. And then they might, because out of rebelliousness, the kids do something foolish. Or they don't even have to be in their teenage years, it could be any time. And then when they do something foolish, you as a parent feel it. You feel it because they're hurting themselves. So it's a very parental relationship. Or even if the relationship becomes more shiksha with, say, an uncle. That we get into this a little more again next lesson. So if the relationship is more with the uncle, the brother of the father, or the shiksha guru, the god brother of the guru, then that person will feel it. So when I was doing a basic research for this seminar series in 2011, I was in Mayapur in 2011, and I approached Bhakti Taru Maharaj, the late great, late lamented. I wish he was still with us physically, because he was such an inspiration, and he still is. But he said, you must make a seminar series about Prabhupada. You must do this. I said, okay. So I went back to Hawaii, I started doing basic research. There was a devotee in our movement at that time, his name was Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu. He was the most learned in Bengali and Sanskrit, and he's American, from New Jersey, he went to Columbia. And so he had, before he passed away in 2011, September, he had this, because he was aware that he had access to so much knowledge of Gaudiya literature, because he knew Sanskrit and Bengali. So he very generously had an email. You could write him. It was what was it? Q&A at Palmho.net. You could write Gopi and ask him any question you wanted to. And if he knew most of his answers were, I don't know. But if he did know, he would give you an answer from Shastra. So I wrote him. So I was researching my seminar series. It was in April now of 2011, and he was with us for several months. Still, we didn't know he was going to pass away. Neither did he. So I was writing him all kinds of questions because I was doing this, So I said, Gopi, who's the deliverer here? Is it the Diksha Guru? Is it the Shiksha Guru? Is it the founder Acharya? Who's actually delivering the disciples? So he said, well, Suresvara, your email has caught up with me in China. I'm on a train in China. I don't have all my books with me. He didn't have them on his computer. But I know from studying Srila Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas that if I tried to pin Jiva down to one person who was the deliverer of the disciple, I could not do it. Because actually the real deliverer, think about the Gita verse, what does Krishna say? Aham tvang sarva papebhyo, I will deliver you from all sinful reaction. But how does he do that? He does it through the whole parampara. You might remember that slide. Prabhupada was there and it was gurus going back to Krishna. He does it through the whole parampara. So it's really Krishna delivering, and Krishna can absorb unlimited sinful reaction. Aham tvang sarva papebhyo. But gurus, as Prabhupada would say, but the guru is not so powerful. So sometimes after he initiates, he might get sick. And Prabhupada, he even told us, my only fault was that I initiated too many unqualified people. He was initiating Mlechas and Yavadas and people who kept sinning even after taking initiation, which is a farce, right? And sometimes people would write him letters. You can see, and you can go to the letters in the database and say, and type in some keywords like guru, deliver, or sinful reaction, and then you'll see letters pop up. You'll get some hits, and they were writing if I don't make it, Prabhupada, will you come back and deliver me? And Prabhupada would answer the letters according to the mentality of the questioner. He would give different answers. Yes, I will do that for you. If they knew that even if the person was very sincere, I will come back. Those Prabhupada Murtis, the gift boxes, there's a quote like that from Prabhupada. I'm prepared to come back and deliver any disciple. But sometimes, if he knew that the disciple was just a rascal who was sitting on the strength of chanting, Nam no baladyasya papa buddhi, he would say, regarding your question about coming back to deliver, I'm still thinking about it. In other words, don't bet on it, that I'm going to deliver you. Because it's like, if a doctor prescribes some regimen for you and then you don't follow the doctor's orders, what can the doctor do? So if Prabhupada, or our gurus, following Prabhupada, prescribe, the 16 rounds and the 4 rules, well, we don't follow, or we don't cooperate with the devotees, then what can be done? It's our free will to follow or not. So is that all right? But
Yes.
There's more coming.
Thank you.
On this. Next, you'll see in the case of Bhakti Vinod, for example.
Yes.
Who was his Diksha Guru, do you know? Bipin Bihari. But he took shelter of, who do we have on the altar? We don't have Bipin Bihari. We have who? Jagannath Das Babaji. Bhakti Sarvabhauma, he was the leader. He took shelter of Jagannath Das Babaji. That's why we have his what became his prominent guru, Shiksha Guru, on the altar. More about that next lesson. Good question.
Thank you.
All right. So, any more questions or comments? Prabhuji. Oh, you got it. Am I distracting you when I'm chewing on these drops?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for your nice class. Question about Shiksha Gurus. So, it's a bit of a two-part question. One is, the Shiksha Gurus, I'm not exactly clear on the definition. They're instructing you, but can it be anyone? Let's say if you're listening to someone on YouTube regularly, but you never met them, and they've never met you, is that a Shiksha Guru?
Right.
And the second thing is, if
is that your second part? Can I answer the first
yes,
part?
yes, Prabhu, yes.
So did everybody understand that? What is a Shiksha Guru? Just because, I see somebody online, is he my Shiksha Guru? Well, in a loose sense, yes. In a very kind of broad sense. We can have, just like you go on Dandavats, when you hear somebody's lecture, or you go on YouTube, and you're inspired by somebody's kirtan, you could be saying, he's my kirtan guru, or she's my kirtan guru, right? But in the strict sense of the term, and there's always loose and strict senses of everything. Just like, when Prabhupada said no illicit sex, what was Prabhupada's kind of broad definition? What was his generous definition of no illicit sex? Do you know? No sex outside of marriage,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But when you get down to it, it's no sex except for calling a soul into the world to liberate it. It's garbhadan samskar. That's what no illicit sex is no sex except for bringing a child. People have forgotten that. People, because of technology, birth control, devices and all this, they just treat sex like a sport, like a contact sport, right? And then, children? That's it. We got, technology, medical advancement we don't have to worry about that unfortunate byproduct of sex. It's crazy. People have even forgotten what sex is for. But the real, full, mature understanding of no illicit sex, this is only, and that doesn't happen overnight, right? I have a god sister who tells a story about when she was in Calcutta in 73. This is a Western devotee. And, in the beginning in India, believe it or not, when Prabhupada brought over his dancing white elephants, as he called us, he knew we would be a novelty for the Indians. And we were, all these pandals, and, they were amazed that Swamiji was bringing over all these Western Vaishnavas. What's that? They must be on LSD. Is that why they're dancing? Or maybe they're CIA. Maybe the CIA has paid off Swamiji to plant spies in India, because India was trying to be neutral in the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the West. So anyway, this god sister of mine, she said she was, when the Calcutta temple opened, it was just Westerners, and very often, sometimes just ladies, but they were teaching the first Indians that were coming in Calcutta how to do arti, how to offer arti. And one morning, there's this one Western lady, and she always did arti at this time. Prabhupada was in the temple, and she was doing Mangal arti. But one morning she didn't come. She asked my god sister, my other god sister, to do it for her. So the god sister said, sure, so I'll do it. So she blows the conch, she opens the curtains, and then Prabhupada notices. Prabhupada is there, standing before, who was it, Radha Govinda in Calcutta? I forget. I think so. And then after the arti, he says to my god sister who did the arti, well, what about so-and-so Devi Dasi? Why didn't she? She always does the arti for Mangal. Oh. Well, she told me something before the arti. I think you should hear it from her. So then Narayani, that was my god sister, called this other lady. She said, Prabhupada wants to see you. And she thought, uh-oh, what have I done? What did I do wrong? So she came into Prabhupada's room in Calcutta Temple on Albert Road. Still there, yeah? Yeah, right. So she said, why didn't you do arti? Oh, Srila Prabhupada, last night my husband and I were intimate. And Prabhupada knew what she meant. And Prabhupada said, that's all the more reason to do arti, to get purified, right? So he didn't banish her because she had illicit sex. No, he recognized that we're conditioned, and so it takes time to come up to the highest standard. But the way to do it is to worship the deity, just to get purified, for following all the practices of bhakti. So, so it's a whole spectrum from broad, so you can say loose to strict. It takes time for a lot of things. Yeah, is that all right? Okay. Okay, so how we doing? It's 6:31, and we can go to 7, right? Wow, we're early. Come on, you got to churn the nectar.
Prabhuji, thank you for the great class. On the same topic of Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru.
Mm-hmm.
So when we join ISKCON, so there is always the emphasis on when are you taking initiation.
Yeah, right.
Right. So it's about Diksha Guru, and somebody asks who is your spiritual master? So
Right.
it's again they are talking about Diksha Guru. There is a whole ceremony you said about the Diksha Guru.
Yes.
So there is nothing, nobody is asking, nobody is emphasizing, nobody is following up. There is no ceremony about Diksha Guru. There is no about the Shiksha Guru. So the whole idea, even though it is so important as Prabhupada is mentioning, as you just said, but we have seen that it has not been given in the whole scheme of things any
Yeah.
importance.
Yeah.
That's why the importance has been lost.
Okay, we do revisit that whole topic in also of why it's still, Diksha is still prominent, especially in lesson 9, which, I mean, if you won't, I'm going to be moving on around the GTA, but I think these will all be recorded
Yes, will
on,
be broadcasted.
on the Toronto. Okay. Okay, so, and I'll be here for the whole month, so you'll catch the lessons. But we're still recovering, believe it or not, from the imitation of Prabhupada, where the gurus, who started initiating after Prabhupada, unfortunately, I mean, you can't even blame them, because Prabhupada, he would say things like, do as I do. I mean, he said you should all become gurus, but then he also said, do as I do, so some people took it that we have to accept worship on the level of the founder Acharya. It was called the zonal Acharya era, right? Where people who were in charge of different zones, they became like kingdoms, right? And it was really bad. I mean, more or less, depending on where you were. So we're still, and they were all initiating gurus. So we're still recovering from thinking that the initiating guru is somebody, on a throne somewhere and high. And we forget about the fact that Shiksha and Diksha, according to Prabhupada, are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna. The onus, the responsibility really is on people who are initiating to like Kalakanta Prabhu. He came to Toronto, he started you call it Bhakti Academy, and he calls it Krishna House, where he is. So if you go to where he is in Gainesville, Florida, he has disciples. He has about 20 disciples, right? And he sometimes I ask him, what should we call you? And he says, just call me Prabhu, Kalakanta Prabhu. You don't have to say Guru Maharaj but it depends on the person. But he makes it, in other words, he's making it very clear that he, as the initiating spiritual master, is not supposed to be on the Prabhupada's level. And that he is not, and just because he initiated them, he heartily encourages them to take shiksha from other exalted devotees too. There were so many devotees, like in Gainesville and Alachua, I mean, there were so many advanced devotees there. I remember asking my godbrother, have you heard of Krishna Kshetra Swami? Yeah, he's an academic, and he has disciples. So he was a brahmachari for years, and he was initiating as a brahmachari even. And then he took sannyas, I think in 2014. And I said to him, I asked him, how do you initiate people? What do you do? He said, well, I make it very clear that I'm their initiating guru. Prabhupada's their founder acharya. He's their foundational relationship, their core identity. We're all Prabhupada Nugas in ISKCON. And then I tell them, I'm not always going to be with you, and even if you email me, I'm busy. I'm teaching. I'm writing papers. I'm presenting at conferences. So wherever you are in the world, I heartily encourage you to make close shiksha relationships with advanced devotees wherever you are, because you need that. Because I'm not there. I don't know your situation. You might try to tell me in a letter or something, or even a phone call, but I'm not observing you day to day. So please take instruction from people. And Prabhupada did that too. Prabhupada, even though he said generally the one who gives the most shiksha becomes the Diksha Guru, I read that quote from CC, he wasn't even able to personally model that because he was spreading it all over the world, 14 times in 12 years, circling the globe. He couldn't stay in one place. So he was when people would write him letters, he would say, well, There are so many senior devotees, and senior devotee in those days just meant a few years, right? But you ask your so and so is there. Ask that person. Ask your temple president or a sannyasi is there, or so and so. I know that person is very advanced, and he was always empowering us, encouraging us. And if you're not satisfied, you can come and live with me for a while if you want. You can travel with me. So Prabhupada even wasn't able to model that, but he was trying to, he was planting the seeds of having those people become gurus. He wanted everybody to be gurus. So he would say it's not the etiquette to initiate, in the presence of your guru. But still, he was trying to encourage people, the juniors, to take shelter of the seniors. So that's true in every yatra. There's juniors, there's seniors, yeah. So it's just it's a shiksha culture that we need to develop more, that we just haven't done as much. It's changing, it's good, but it really, as I say, the onus is on whoever is initiating to make that very clear to your disciples. It's not all about me. Okay, I'm your parent. I'm your initiating guru. But I have so many advanced God brothers and God sisters, take shelter of them too. We need that. They say in Africa, it takes a village, it takes a village to raise a child. So it takes a whole Sangha. We say this in lesson 8, I think. It takes a whole Sangha. I forget which one it is. Maybe it's in 10. It takes a whole Sangha of uncles and aunties to raise a sadhaka. It takes a whole group of devotees, to do that. And you know that from India. You still have at least the concept of extended family. It's not just the nuclear family. It's just not just the guru and his little god family. No, there's a whole extended family of uncles and aunties who can help. So that's what Prabhupada wants. It takes time, but if they don't hear it from their guru, from their parent, they might not believe it. Oh, someone just saying that, but I know my guru is the real one. He's the saint that's going to inherit when all the other gurus pass away. He's going to inherit ISKCON. No, forget it. That's not the way it works. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they've been going for 1,000 years. In 1017, Ramanujacharya appeared. 1117, the Ramanujis celebrated their millennial, not the centennial. We had the centennial in ISKCON in 1896. They're millennial. They've been going for 1,000 years. How do they keep it together through all these generations? Because they keep Ramanuja, who they call, there's a Tamil word for it, Prapanna. What was it? Anyway, they have a term for in their understanding of Guru Tattva. Ramanuja is the deliverer. He's the deliverer because it's his books they study, and it's his Murti they worship in Sri Rangam, and it's his mission, his Vishishta Dvaita mission that they prosecute. And then all the gurus who have come after him for hundreds of years now, they're called benefactor gurus. So how do they benefit their disciples? Yeah, they help the devotees understand, their disciples understand Ramanuja's books and worship his Murti, execute his Vishishta Dvaita mission. That should ring a bell. I think that's the next lesson. Yes, in the Founder Acharya principle. You'll see that. Just wish I could think of that. Anyway, I can't remember the Tamil now, but... Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, wait a minute. Before you ask it... Oh, you had part 2, that's right. I cut you off.
So, Prabhu, so there's some people that this philosophy might be new to. What's the destiny of someone who doesn't have a Siksha or Diksha Guru? Who doesn't have a Siksha or Diksha Guru? What's their destiny? That's one question. I have
Well,
another
that's the whole world, right?
question after that.
You mean somebody who's just coming around ISKCON, or what's your
Oh,
context?
sorry, someone who comes to ISKCON but doesn't have a guru, just comes to the sanghas but doesn't
Oh, I see. What you
doesn't
mean.
get instruction from anyone.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Christianity, in the Christian tradition, sometimes people are called Christmas Christians or Easter Christians. They only come for the, Janmashtami, or they just come, they like the food. They like the prasad. That's okay, that's good. One time Vishnujan Maharaj said to Prabhupada, "Srila Prabhupada, prasadam is so good. Can we just eat prasadam all day?" Prabhupada said, "Yes. If you chant Hare Krishna after every bite." If you chant Hare Krishna after every bite. Of course you can't do that. You can't eat all day. You have to eat to live, not live to eat. Okay, yeah, so some people might like it because this is where all my Indian friends come. I see all my Indian friends. Or all my whatever friends, wherever you are, wherever in the world you are, whatever you're. It's a social thing, right? It's just a social. Or sometimes people come because they're looking for a mate. This is a good place to hook up with people, get married, find a partner like that. What else? I mean, there's so many reasons people attend religious, or they just want to be seen that I'm a respectable person, that I come to a temple or a church or a mosque, and people will think, oh, there's a respectable person. And the person could be a debauch. He wants to be seen as respectable, right? So what's the question is, what's the fate of someone who doesn't have a guru? Well, first you have to want a guru. You have to have desire. I was born in 1946, and then Prabhupada started the movement in 1966 in New York City, in the Lower East Side. And I was living 35 miles, I was living so close. Even though I was born in New York, I never liked the place. Very dangerous. Prabhupada called these cities dungeons of demons, because you can't even see the light of day. You got all these skyscrapers. And so I used to just go to New York City just to go to baseball games. So, but the real reason that I never, even though Prabhupada was so close physically, Swamiji was starting this movement, 66, why wasn't I there in the beginning? I was so close. Because my desire wasn't there. I was still chasing girls and experimenting with different substances, and, I wasn't ready. I had to get kicked. I had to get kicked by Maya, to finally ask why. Kayami, who am I? Why am I suffering the threefold miseries? Sanatana Goswami. So, but, it's funny because Prabhupada, he did call it the International Society, excuse me, for Krishna consciousness. So all these other things, they're kind of like aspects of a whole society, right? People like to go to weddings and, meet people, and they like banquets, nice food, or kirtan. So at least they're coming to the right place. So it's not, to some people, like people are ready when they're ready. So that's okay. They should be encouraged. But also when somebody, usually people get serious when they start really suffering. Right? When I suffer, there was a famous American journalist in World War II. His name was Ernie Pyle. And he had a famous saying, because he was a journalist and he was embedding with the troops in the Pacific Theater. And He said in one of his dispatches for the New York Times or whoever he was writing for, there are no atheists in foxholes. In other words, if you're pinned down by the enemy gunfire and you're just inches below their bullets, you think, God, save me. You think, God, save me, It's a natural thing. Oh, God. As soon as something horrendous happens, oh, God, So, So when somebody starts suffering, and then they might inquire, well, can Krishna help me with this? 4 kinds of pious people, Krishna says, come to him. The distressed, mostly we're distressed. The inquisitive, he who was searching for wealth, and he who was wise. It's a progression from gross motives to more refined motives. Most of us come from a combination, but a lot of distress. I know when I came to Toronto and I was being chased by the American military, that was my impetus to get the heck out of America and go to a place where at least the American military wouldn't get me. So, I wouldn't worry, but as a natural, the Vaishnavas are compassionate. We say, Kripa Sindhu, they're oceans of mercy. So as the Vaishnav sees people become a little inquisitive, then I'm glad you asked that question. I thought you'd never ask, Why don't you read the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu? I can help you, from the Gita. It's funny you asked that because Arjuna asked the same thing. And it's right in the Gita. And then they might get interested, So, look for those teachable moments. Yes, and your name? Shakti Devi Dasi.
I just had a comment about what you just were saying. Don't they say if Krishna loves you, he'll take things away, but if he really loves you, then he'll take everything away. Like you really are going to suffer, and then it's sort of at that point is because he really loves you, you're suffering so much, you're really calling out for him. I don't know exactly how the
No, that's good.
goes.
Yes, there's in Prabhupada's own life. That's true. That verse is from the. Anybody know? Yasyaham anugranami harishe taddanang shanai. Prabhupada, at 3 times, he tried to build up his business because it was predicted at birth that he would become another Birla. We'd say Rockefeller, Ford, or who's in Canada? What's the famous billionaire? Anybody?
Kennedy?
Whoever.
I think it was one of Elon Musk's distant relatives
Yeah.
that.
The guy that started PayPal? Wasn't he Canadian?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I think he was trying to start some weird political movement.
Okay, we won't get lost in the example, but
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
He ran away to South Africa. That's the only thing.
okay. So anyway, it was predicted that Prabhupada, some astrologers said, "Oh, you could be another Birla. You could be very wealthy." So what happened was that Prabhupada decided after he met his Guru Maharaj, he was already married, he already had children. He couldn't just run away and join the mutt. He was responsible. So he did, this was his plan. His plan was, as a grihasta, when you're developing economically, as you have children, and to build up your wealth, and then, when the ashram is finished and you move into vanaprastha, you'll take your accumulated wealth, and you'll have something to start with to do the mission, right? But 3 times Prabhupada tried to build up his wealth. And each time Krishna smashed it. He didn't allow it to happen. And so when he finally was in kind of vanaprastha mode, he asked one of his godbrothers, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Maharaj, you know this verse? I think it's 10th canto. 1088, 88 or something like that. Yasyaham anugranami. And Krishna says, when I'm especially mercifully disposed towards someone, then I take everything away from that person, so that the poor person has no other shelter but me. All his friends and family abandon him, and he has no shelter but me. Do you think that, so Prabhupada said, do you think that might be true in my case? So Sridhar Maharaj said, yeah, Bhai, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, they were calling him Bhaktivedanta by then. I think, yeah, it sounds like that's what's going on. Because Prabhupada had left his family in 54, and then he was living like a pauper, like a homeless person.
It reminds me of the story. Oh, sorry, it reminds me of the story in the Mahabharata when Draupadi they're taking her sari off,
Yeah.
and she's holding,
Yeah.
and finally she just reaches out. and
Yes,
says-
hey Govinda.
Yes, and then the sari is endless, right?
Then Krishna, unlimited sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Thank you very much. Okay, it's almost 7. It's 7 to 7. So, are there any more questions or comments? Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My question is related to the relationship that you described as the spiritual master being the parent. For someone who has a challenging parent, could you share another relationship that could be easier to associate?
Okay. So it sounds like you're making the word parent a symbol for the guru there, right? The initiating guru.
I'm very new to everything in ISKCON, so I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes, if you talk to people, I had a very difficult relationship with my father. I mean, when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, he wouldn't speak to me for 10 years because I had not followed his wishes, right? And then finally, after 11 years, I did something that he thought was normal. I got married. Okay, he's all right. He's a human being. Because in those days, there was like a real generation gap. We were really protesting our parents. Our parents kind of symbolized the establishment and all this stuff. So, yeah, but it's true that even in this, if you don't really do your due diligence of before you take initiation, you should really. It's not just that the guru, it's not just that the disciple is. You'll see this in lesson 7. It's not just that the disciple is seeing who to take initiation from. He's exploring. It's not just that he's exploring a relationship with a person who could be his Diksha Guru, but the spiritual master is obliged to check out the prospective disciple, right? To see if could this person really be my disciple? Because everybody's different. Even if you have somebody who's very sincere, and a sincere aspirant, and you have a qualified guru, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to work. Just like a boy and a girl meet. Prabhupada gave this example in March 66. In the Bowery, he was saying, just like a boy and a girl meet, and they're exploring a relationship, it doesn't mean that, even if they're nice, even if the boy's nice and the girl's nice, that doesn't mean they're going to work as husband and wife. Conjugal relationship is different than friend, Sakya Ras. So, it has to be. And then, so if you don't really explore that, and then just out of some impatience or some whim, you just get together as guru and disciple, then you might discover so many incompatibilities. But that's if they're good people, that if the guru won't be jealous that okay, now my disciple, he wants to take shiksha from somebody else, he'll encourage that. Yeah, sure. We don't see eye to eye, or we don't, get along, or my emphasis is not your. Like, here's an example. Like, there's so many aspects to Prabhupada's ISKCON. Some, and there's deity worship, there's rural community development, cow protection and agriculture, there's book distribution. I mean, you name it. There's so many different aspects of Prabhupada's mission. And some gurus are tuned in, they're focused on just one aspect. They really emphasize one aspect. But maybe that's just not your calling, to be a pujari or a book distributor or a cow protector or whatever. So, but then you can, but there are so many devotees who can help you in the area that you're interested in. So that should all be done beforehand, before you take initiation. Like if your gift is really, okay, to work with the cows, again, because I lived at Gita Nagari for 13 years in Pennsylvania. I lived in New Vrindavan. I lived in Prabhupadville. I've been involved with rural communities for about 20 out of my 55 years. So I have a soft spot for that too. But maybe my Diksha Guru, of course, Prabhupada, he was into all aspects. So I know it pleases him if you're protecting the cows. So you have to suss that out, beforehand, just like you explore a relationship. And if you don't do that, there might be some hard feelings later. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? All right, I think it's time. So we're going to do what now? Prasad? Is that it?
We have a children's presentation.
Children's presentation.
Madhurani, but before that, we just have a quick announcement.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you very much for listening. And I hope you can catch Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I hope you can catch the remainder of the lessons online or in person, as you like. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.